Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren the language nerd here. Hope you're doing very, very well. I had a quick 15 or so minutes to kill here before I start teaching at the library here to my right, and I thought I'd quickly pull up my phone and make a video about something I was thinking about yesterday because I was actually asked some questions about it. And it has to do with learning languages by listening to music. I find that listening to music is something that a lot of language learners do when they're learning a new language. However, what I find is that there are some general good practices that some people don't necessarily do or don't necessarily know a lot about. And so I thought I would quickly take out my phone and talk about some of these good practices. I think number one, this is a bit of a constant for all aspects of language learning, but it has to be music, or you have to be using songs that you like. You can't just be taking random songs and using those songs to learn. It's just not necessarily going to work the best way. The same way that if you were taking a really boring language class, it's not going to be as effective for you than if you were to take a language class that you were very engaged in and that you really enjoyed. It's kind of a similar sort of deal. So you have to be picking songs that appeal to you, that you like, that intrigue you, that make you want to listen more and be like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? Oh, wow, I like that beat. Oh, that chorus is like straight fire. It's amazing. This, that, the other thing. So that is, I think, the absolute most important thing when you're using music. Now, the other thing with music is it's a bit of a word of caution, I think, or something to be aware of, is that often in music, the lyrics will sometimes not make they won't fully make sense. As in, if you were just to read them in sentence form, sometimes they don't really have a full logic behind them. And so especially if you're not super advanced, or if you are more of a beginner and you're trying to learn by listening to songs, well, something to be mindful of is that sometimes if you're looking at some lyrics, even if you know what all the words mean, it's not fully going to make sense because they're super poetic, or there's almost more of the line is almost in there because it rhymes with something they said earlier, and it just fits really well with the song, even though it doesn't necessarily have a super duper logical meaning. And so it's something just to kind of be aware of, because if you're struggling to understand certain parts of a song, it might have nothing or very little to do with your language ability or your ability to comprehend what's going on. It might have more to do with the fact that the song is trying to be a little bit poetic, or trying to make a metaphor, or trying to use language in a bit of a creative way, and you are just not far enough along in understanding that language and how they think and what kind of analogies they make in songs for you to really fully be able to grasp that concept yet. And so just be mindful of that, right? I almost think that a good practice, especially if you're not really advanced in a language, which is often the case as language learners, we're often not super duper advanced. Otherwise, we're not, if we're super advanced, we're usually not putting a ton of focus on the language, usually. So I think a really big thing to keep in mind is that often it's a good idea to not try and understand everything in the song, because it's going to be it might be really difficult, but to try and take as much away from the song as you can. So, for example, there is a Mandarin rap song that I really like, and it's quite poetic, I won't lie. It's using a lot of poetic words. I've been told by one of my Mandarin tutors in the past that it uses some words that are more literary, that they're not really, we don't use them a lot in spoken language, but this rapper chooses to use them to get her point across. It does a better job of it than using the colloquial ways. And so there's a lot I don't understand. There's a lot that it goes over my head. Even after I was told what the words mean, it's still just difficult for me to fully grasp it. But I understand enough. When I've looked at the lyrics, when I've looked through dictionary, when I've translated the lyrics, when I've asked people, when I've listened to it a bunch of times, when I've tried to think about how does it make me feel, I understand enough to be able to enjoy the song. And a lot of the parts I do understand, because I like the song and I listen to it various times. Every time I listen to it, it really reinforces that vocabulary in my brain, and it's very, very helpful for me. I think another thing to think about is, and this is something that occurred to me recently, is looking at the types of songs you're listening to. I said earlier, make sure you're picking songs that you like. What's even better, if possible, it's not always possible, what's even better is if you can find songs that you like that also happen to be quite articulate. What I mean by that is some songs, you know, they're really belting out the lyrics, they're really into the song, and because of that, they're actually morphing, they're changing the pronunciation of certain words, or maybe the access, the stress on the word is going in a different place than it normally would in conversation. And so I'm a fan of songs where they are quite articulate, so you can hear the sounds of what's being said, and it's very, very clear to you. So in Spanish, for example, recently I've come across a couple of songs that are quite articulate. I like a song called Sola by Jesse Reyes. I like a song in Spanish called Cielito Lindo, specifically by Marta Gomez. That specific version is very good because there's not even a lot of background noise in the song. There's just a lot of vocals that are very clearly articulated, which I think is very, very good for learners. And last thing I'll say, is if you ever catch a song that tends to have repetitive lyrics, that can be a really good thing. If there's, for example, like rap, for instance, for a lot of people might not be great because often in rap songs, there's a lot of lyrics. There's a lot being said. There's often not a ton of repetition. If you're not understanding stuff from the very beginning, you're going to get lost along the story of the rap, because often raps are kind of like a poem in many ways, right? Where there's a story that you have to be kind of following along. And so rap, it's just a side note. Often I find rap maybe isn't the best option unless you really enjoy rap, obviously, in which case, yes, go all in. Like I use rap sometimes, but anyway, I'm going on a tangent. If you find a song that has repetitive lyrics, it can be really good because there's less to really be consuming in the song. You could listen to one song, you can study it for a relatively short period of time and be able to understand what's going on, versus some songs might be a little bit more complex. So again, just something to really think about. Last thing I'll say on this whole topic is the following. At the end of the day, when you're listening to music, please understand that it's something more of it's often something that can be used more of a passive thing. As in you're driving, you turn on some music in whatever language just to listen to, get some exposure to the language, and you can really have fun with it. You can sing along, you can do a lot of that. And just something to be really mindful of. So I think a big thing for music is don't, have fun with it. Have fun. Music is fun, and just make sure you are having fun with it, as well. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate your attention, and yeah, we'll chat later. Bye for now. See you guys.